Buonasera, vi presento Lord Richard Allan, Lord Allan of Hallam. Hallam è un quartiere di Sheffield e Richard Allan è vicepresidente di Facebook per Europa, Africa e Medio Oriente, ma allo stesso momento come ex politico liberale è anche un working lord, come si dice. Sarebbe in Italia un membro del Senato del futuro, come qualcosa del genere. Così deve anche votare lui su questi eventuali leggi che toccano l'Inghilterra o la Gran Bretagna sull'uscita dall'Europa, in quanto ancora membro della seconda Camera del Parlamento inglese. Lui così è arrivato lì nominato come politico di carriera, ma sta accanto anche ai lord ereditari in queste splendide sale storiche del House of Lords. Lui è nato a Londra, vive a Londra e ha studiato latino, ma poi è diventato un esperto di software e lavora adesso da 7 anni in Facebook e con 7 anni in Facebook lui c'è più tempo in Facebook di 98% dei dipendenti. Così permettete che continuo in inglese, così abbiamo più un riscontro diretto e possiamo così avere una traduzione per chi vuole sentire in italiano. So, may, however, continue with Richard Allan, or do I have to say Lord Allan? No. So, maybe we can have some of your impressions after the decision in the referendum on Brexit. I think we're all curious to hear about what day did you have yesterday in London, and what are your feelings about this Brexit story?
So, I think my feelings are quite simple. Don't do it. That's the only advice I can give you. Just don't do it. I mean, as Facebook, we're a neutral platform, and people could organise for both sides on Facebook. As a citizen of the United Kingdom and still a European Union citizen, I'm actually quite emotional about the fact that I will cease to be a European citizen in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, and that's not something I wish for. The vast majority of people in London do not wish to leave the European Union. The vast majority of people in Scotland do not wish to leave the European Union, but a majority across the country as a whole do. And we will now go through a process of extensive negotiation. My own personal view is it is insane to vote for something without knowing what the something is, and we don't know what the something is today. And it is quite possible that my side of the argument will fight back, just as the people who want to leave have been driving the debate so far. But I would love to think that. I would love to think that we're going to fight back. We may have a general election now. I would love to think that pro-European parties would win the general election, and then we can try and move things back again, but who knows? It doesn't look good.
But so many companies in London have been in the more liberal, market-oriented part of the European Union and having full access to Europe. So some companies will now have to decide whether they want have to have their headquarters in Europe or outside Europe.
And honestly, again, I think it's much too early to know that. It is possible that at the end of the negotiation process, we end up rather like Switzerland or Norway. In other words, we're pretty integrated into the European Union. Or it's possible at the end of the negotiation process, we end up much more distant, where we, insist on visas, different regulation, and we effectively have barriers between us and the 27 countries of the European Union. Today, nobody knows. The negotiation hasn't even started, so we have voted for an unknown.
Anyhow, we are glad you came here from London because we thought that you would tell us about how the south of Italy is getting nearer to the center of the world and nearer to the center of Europe. And is it, in your view, now easier to work to work as a company of a certain type, even from the south of Italy or the south of Europe? So has new technology given new chances to the south?
So I'm delighted to be in the south of Italy, and I think it's worth remembering, if you look over time, that even an area like Silicon Valley was not the center of the technology world a few decades ago. The center of the technology world was the east coast of the United States. It was places like Boston and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology where all the action was. And some entrepreneurs got going in California, in an area where there was cheap agricultural land and there wasn't much happening, and they started to build a nucleus of businesses. And today that now is, in many respects, the center of the global, certainly, software industry. So I think it's possible for anywhere with the right technology and the right clustering now to get front and center. There are some key challenges to overcome. Connectivity is really important, and that's something that certainly we are now looking at. We sell a software service, but we understand that people's experience of that software service varies according to their connectivity. And so for a place to become really, really hot in terms of technology, it has to get its connectivity right. But I think where you do have that, where you have good, solid connections, can be part of a network of engineers around the world. You now have amazing potential you never had before, and certainly the south of Italy. And I know over the last 2 days you've been talking to people, and people have been presenting amazing businesses they're building. The south of Italy absolutely is part of that global network.
So welcome to the technological valley of Italy, based in Trani.
This is Silicon Castle, as we can call it. Yeah.
You need a few more connections, high-speed connections, but Francesco Boccia is working on this. So if you start a new business, how can Facebook be involved in this for startups? So Facebook, can it find a partner? Can you find a partner with Facebook? Can you launch yourself with Facebook? Can you use Facebook as a marketing tool?
Absolutely, and I guess I'd like to respond to Andrea Pezzi's challenge earlier about what it is that we do. I mean, at its most basic level, a platform like Facebook connects people with something to sell with other people who want to buy that thing. So there is a transaction that can take place. That's what we can do. And sometimes that's, free content. And so if a publisher has got content they think will be interesting to people, we provide a new and actually very efficient way to find the people who will be interested in your content. And that can be, a free transaction. It's not our content. We're not writing it. We're connecting the person who's interested in the content with the content. And the same absolutely applies for application developers, which I think is a lot of what we're thinking of when we think about startups. So if you've created a superb application, you can use our platform to reach the people you want to reach. And we have a program called FB Start, which we've been running for 3 years now. And that now has over 9,000 application developers in over 130 countries in the program. They get expert advice exactly on that, how they can use the Facebook toolkit to promote their application. And we just completed a round of annual prize giving, and I'm delighted that the prize for our region was run by an Italian company, Music's Match. They're from Bologna. I know, different part of Italy, but still a great Italian company that has used our platform to promote itself and win loyal and faithful users. And as part of that prize giving, they will get some extra tools and extra kit that they can use to do that. So that's the primary mechanism, giving people the technology that they can use wherever they are in the world and the skills they need to get out there, reach people who will like their application, and then get it onto their phones and then start becoming a loyal customer.
And for a start, Facebook is also helping people to make their name a brand. So people have followers, and maybe then out of these followers, they start promoting themselves as politicians or as company owners or as startups. How important is this for Facebook, and how big are the opportunities there? Yeah. So what's the maximum of followers that you can have?
So if you create a Facebook page, which is the place on Facebook for entities rather than individuals, you can have as many as you like. There are people with tens of millions of followers on Facebook. And the page is the baseline. So to start promoting yourself on the platform, the entry cost is zero. You create the page, you start to build a following. Now, of course, over time, yes, there is a business. We are a business. We need to keep the thing running. And there is a business model that says if you find real value in this, you can use our advertising tools to reach more people who are interested in your product. We don't sell you their data, but what we do is sell you the ability to connect with them. And then you can build and build and build your page. And some politicians do this very effectively as well, using the whole range of toolkit, including we now have a broadcasting tool, FB Live, where you can broadcast to people through your page. So from a baseline of zero, and with a reasonable investment, you can build those pages up. And we found that in Europe, about 80% of people will connect to a small and medium business page. In Italy, it's actually closer to 90%. So most of the millions of Facebook users who are here in Italy, including I'm sure a lot of people in this room, most of them are doing exactly that. They're connecting with either a personality or a business that they feel loyal to, and they're doing that through their phone on Facebook. And that connection is the start of the conversation, which can then become commercial, but is not always commercial.
What's the future of this development? 10 years on, where are we going to be?
So I think, as a technology company, I think we're famous for having this particular application and service. The Facebook application is the thing we're most famous for, but we've just been talking about how we see the technology roadshow evolving, and I think one thing that's important is never to stay still. So if you go to a Facebook office, on the wall we have posters. All technology companies have motivational posters, but one of ours is, "This journey is 1% finished." And that's a reminder that it's not about building, an application, even a really successful one like Facebook, and stopping. That's not the way we should be working. We should be saying, okay, what next? And what next is actually a huge amount of work around messaging services. Those instant messaging services we all use, people are now starting to realize the potential that there is there. So if people are following this, they'll notice things like bots, the least fashionable word, but basically some ability with a messaging service to be able to communicate with people at scale. Artificial intelligence is becoming a major part of our work in a lot of companies. Again, how can you do things at scale more efficiently than previously? So, for example, if people are sharing photos, often you can spot things like illnesses through those photos if you've trained a machine to look at enough photos and diagnose them from that. So that kind of work is big. And then the last area is virtual reality. Again, very early days, but some fascinating stuff happened. Last night, somebody I think was in this room showed me Botticelli painting a painting in the 15th century somewhere in Naples as a virtual reality experience, and it was fantastic. Again, early days, but some amazing work coming out now that really changes your experience. Those are three areas: messaging, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, that are big, in terms of what we're looking at. What the products will look like, none of us know, but it's an exciting time.
There's all this talking about made in Italy, and made in Italy is something like a premium brand in the world. So if you come from Italy, it's something special. And there are lots of products where made in Italy counts. So and around all this, say shoes, furniture, leather goods, fashion, there have been all these clusters, these industrial districts have been founded. And Italy's had a lot of entrepreneurs that started their business. But now, certainly, this model is now questioned by globalization. On the other end, is there something made in Italy, something Italian, that you can transfer to this technological world? We heard from you that it's not so distant anymore to be in the south. It's not a problem anymore. So early on it was a problem to start a company if you were not in this industrial district. You were not in the cluster. But now Italy, has it some advantage, or is it just one country, one place in the big world? Or can you imagine anything made in Italy, creative or fun, that gives Italy a chance, one more chance, a better chance to survive in this new technological world?
If I answered no to that question, you'd throw me out. So I think I'm going to answer yes, but a heartfelt yes. I mean, what we're, I think, realizing as technology companies is that to have a single uniform product designed, again, if we're honest, from a US perspective, and then to push that out across the world and not adapt your product as the base of people that uses your service changes, is short-sighted. And so for Facebook services, most of the people who use our services are outside the United States. And so the United States is a fantastic driver of technology and innovation, but to deliver the best products and services, you need a diversity of people in the company who bring all of those different elements. And they, to an extent, we can say they're cliche, but they're cliches because they're true. Things like Italian style and flair applies just as much to designing the interface for a mobile application as it does to designing shoes or clothes. And some of the great success we had, there's a guy called, I think, Andrea Vaccaro, who's he was so good, we bought his business and him. So there's a group of Italian software engineers that have come into Facebook precisely because they design products that we inside Facebook would never have come up with. And so I think there'll be a lot more success stories like that. And you can argue, is it a success or failure with great Italian software designers get bought by a big American company? But we're doing that because we're recognizing that, exactly as you say, made in Italy is great. And we need Italian in our product, just as we need German and French, and still probably need British and other places around the world.
So maybe that's something that Italians haven't communicated yet, that there's a made in Italy also in the technological world. Yeah. When you start a business, when you do all this marketing, then you are very keen on data as an entrepreneur. And then there's a question about privacy. That's also the question I got here. There's this trade-off. How are you going to treat people who want data as much as they can get? Or how do you treat as Facebook the data of your clients? What is the trade-off? What are the problems? What are the chances?
Yeah. So there is a kind of basic principle, I think, to working with personal data, which is best framed as no surprises. People don't like surprises. So if I go and engage with a business and I give the business my data and they use that to contact me, I'm not surprised. I had a transaction with them. They're using the data in the way I expected. If somebody I don't know at all contacts me and they've got my data, I'm surprised and I don't like it. So that's at a very sort of common sense level, the core principle. And actually European law effectively tries to implement that core principle. There is I think a sort of truism that pretty much every business that you'll have seen over the last couple of days at the DigithON and every digital business uses personal data. They are data-driven businesses, and that data provides huge value for the person who uses the service. I mean, if you took the data out of there, you didn't personalize the service, it would be a worse service. I like it when I get recommendations of things that I might like from my online video providers. It adds value, to my life that I should have things recommended to me from this huge sort of wall of information that there is now out there. And that's based on my personal data. So I think as long as the contract is clear, when I give my data, I get what I expected, then I think we can continue with these data-driven businesses, and we should do. If we have a concern, it's that, and again, this is partly down to us, if we get it so wrong that people are upset, become hostile, then it's going to roll the whole thing back. Either regulators or people themselves will not want the data-driven businesses. So it's for this community, I think, to do it responsibly, and we try to as Facebook. And if we do that, we can get the value. It doesn't have to be this scary thing.
Is there a general contribution that Facebook gives to the economic and social development in the global world?
Yes. So we, again, are very conscious that, and I think it's true for a number of technology businesses, that you yourself you employ relatively few people compared with traditional businesses, and you tend to have a relatively light footprint in terms of offices and facilities. We're not building factories, Facebook factories everywhere, but we're an incredible enabling force for all the businesses that already exist. So if you start a small enterprise today, and you have a particular niche. I came across one in Spain, actually. It was fantastic. They would take old 1950s sunglasses and refurbish old 1950s sunglasses and sell them. And they would buy these from old opticians in Spain that were closing down. Now, the market for 1950s sunglasses in any one town is very small. But the market amongst the 1.6 billion Facebook users is quite big. And so they could create a small business and use the power of the platform to connect with everybody, well, not everybody, but a very large percentage of people who are interested in 1950 sunglasses, not just in Spain, but around the world. And it's that power we try and offer everywhere. In Italy, we've been running a partnership with Commercio, and we've been running events called Boost Your Business, including one down the road in Bari. So we've tried to make sure we cover the whole of Italy. And I think we've had over 7,000 of these small businesses now come to those events and learn those tips and tricks that allow them, wherever they are in Italy or in the world, to be able to find the people that want their product. And I think that's the big contribution we make. It's not, thousands of Facebook employees sitting here, but it's thousands of Italian businesses who then go on to hire people here in Italy because of the value they get from the platform.
So there we're back to Made in Italy. So you enhance Made in Italy. But if you look at the world of Facebook and if you look at startups, where are the niches, where are the possibilities of growth for young entrepreneurial Italians in the future? What's your advice for them?
Yeah, so, I would look, I think in particular the one that excites me is around messaging. I actually think, again, we're starting to see people who run virtual businesses where they will use a photo sharing site as their shop window. So they may no longer need to invest in a physical premises, which is a big barrier for a lot of people. They can use a photo sharing site, and we obviously got Instagram as one of ours, as a shop window. And then they can do the customer fulfillment through messaging. It allows them a huge amount of confidence that they can have in the connections that they make with their customers. So I think that sort of taking traditional businesses where you're buying and selling products and then using the power of the technologies that companies like ours, not just ours, but many others are developing to give people a better customer experience is the exciting area for me in terms of traditional business. On the app side, I'd say I certainly think the new video experiences are amazing. And again, this is something we've been working on, that to deliver video reliably is difficult. To deliver video reliably to millions of people all of the time on all kinds of networks is really difficult. But we are now getting to the point where that's possible. And so things like if you started seeing some of these 360 images and 360 videos, these kind of immersive experiences you can do, I think there's a lot in there where we're going to go from looking down at your phone and doing this to something that's a much richer experience, almost bringing your head up. And it involves video, it involves 360, it involves virtual reality. That's the exciting area.
You can sell products without having a big shop with many shop windows, and you can promote Italy, southern Italy, with videos without having to buy a lot of TV campaigns.
That's the neat way to put
it. Other ideas of this? Can I have some more?
Yeah, and I think, well, if you're another one, again, I mentioned it earlier, but I think artificial intelligence in its broadest sense is fascinating. The barrier actually to doing a lot of this previously was that you didn't have the data. So the data now exists, again, not just on our platform, but the data is there on the internet that allows you to do something. And this example I find really compelling. For example, to take, thousands and thousands or millions and millions of photos of people's skin, and to find the people who have some signs that they're precancerous from their skin. That requires these massive data sets that weren't previously there. You think about the power of that. It means that in future, a doctor anywhere with a phone could take a picture, compare against these artificial intelligence databases, and become as expert as diagnosis potentially as a handful of doctors that there are today in the world. So that's a kind of health application of that. But I think those applications will be across all fields. So doing something, typically with your phone out there in the wild, and then being able to draw on artificial intelligence and huge data sets, is that connection that I think is going to be of huge potential for mankind.
How do you feel about so many people not communicating anymore, sitting in a restaurant and just watching their Facebook pages or walking along the street with a smartphone? I didn't walk with my smartphone when I fell on the street of Rome, but anyway, it's a distraction. Is that a lifestyle that is going to take over everything, or is it just a fashionable thing that could go away?
It's fascinating for me the extent to which we sort of think that technology makes us do things as opposed to us having a choice. And I think we do have a choice. There are social customs for how we use technology that we should talk about more openly, is my own view. So I found it fascinating. The mobile phone in some countries and cultures, if you're in a meeting like this, you would never answer your mobile phone. There are other places where I've been where if my phone rang now, I'd say, excuse me, everyone, and I'm just going to chat on the phone. And that is, I've actually seen the president of a country in South America do that. Not here. But I mean, again, those are cultural expectations. And as long as we all understand the expectations, that's fine. And so if I go to dinner, my expectation is no devices at the table, not for the children, not for the adults. We put them to one side and we have dinner, and it's okay to say, excuse me, get off Facebook, you're having dinner with me. But I think we have to develop those social customs. The technology doesn't make us do anything. It gives us a choice, but the choice is a person's choice. The phone doesn't force you to listen to it.
Thank you, Richard Allan.
Thank you.